All right, so now it's time for us to get started and putting together the application. But most importantly, we're gonna start small and adding the things that we need. All right, so I went ahead and created a new project, a.reader. You can name whatever you want. And so we have it all set up. Now it's time for us to get started. So what I'm going to do first, of course, is we know that we will need a few things, but the main thing is that we need Firebase. So Firebase is a backend that allows us to create databases, but most importantly, it allows us to scale our app quickly and easily. Now, what we need to do is to go to firebase.com or firebase.google.com. So if you type in, you should have a Google account in order for this to work. I'm assuming you do. If not, you have to create an account, and then you should be able to go to firebase.com, firebase.google.com as such. And I'm already logged in. That's why you have my picture there. And what we need to do from here, just go to console. You'll see that we have here your Firebase projects. If this is the first time, you probably won't have any of these, which is fine. In this case, I do have a few projects, so that's why they're there. So what we need to do is say add project. So, but in this case here, I'm just going to say get a reader like this to name our app. Okay, I'm going to say continue. And it's going to ask us to, of course, add Google Analytics for the Firebase project. I don't want any of these. I'm just going to not add any of those. So just say create. And now it's creating the Get a Reader project, Firebase project. So it may take a few seconds. You can see Get a Reader is done. Your new project is ready. Go ahead and click there and you should be taken to this screen here. The beauty about having a Firebase project is that you can include different platforms. We have Apple, iOS, we have Android, we have web, we have Unity, and so forth. So this is really good because you could have an app that is an iOS app, Android, and web, but the data is still the same, right? The database, the backend is the same, so you can leverage the same database. Okay, so what we need to do here, let's go ahead and click Android as such. Now we need to add a few things here in our register app here. So notice it says we need to add the Android package name. If you click there, it's going to say your package name is generally the application ID in your app level build.gradle. Let's go to our project, go to app level build.gradle, this one. So you can see application ID, this is mine. Now for you, it's going to be something different, right? So go to the second build.gradle, so the one that says module and .app like that, and then go to default or find where application ID is. So you want to copy that and we're going to add that. It has to be exactly that. Okay, so go and find yours. And the app nickname here, this is optional. Essentially, it's going to be the nickname we're going to see in the console. So I'm going to say a reader, Get a Reader Android. And then the debug signing certificate, we don't need to worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and just register the app. All right, so now we need to download the config file. It says Google services.json. And then once we download here, we need to move that into our app module root directory. Okay, let's go ahead and click here to download. And you can see here, it has even an image to show us where we're supposed to add. So it has to be at our root folder in our Android app. So let's go ahead and open this new Finder, go to our project. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to change the view of our project here. I'm going to click there. I want to see the project so I can have access to all the files and so forth. So as you see, there is the app. So I'm going to add it to this root folder here, making sure it's going to be exactly like this. So you see, we have the source and we have the ProGuard rules. So it's going to be at the same level as ProGuard rules there. So I have it on my desktop. I'm going to just add it there. I'm going to say refactor, add everything. Sure, this is for my Git. That's fine. And voila, there it is. Okay, let's make sure it is correct. Yes, it has to be there. So this is your Google service.json. You should keep it to yourself, okay, because this contains all of the information needed for the app, the authorizations and so forth. So don't share that with anyone. Okay, so back to our configuration. I'm going to say next. All right, so now it's saying that we need to make some changes in our Gradle. So what do we need to do here? First of all, this has to be the project level build.gradle, which means let's change this back to Android so we can just see the files that we need. This is going to be the project level. It says project there. Double click. Let's go ahead and take a look. It has to be, let's check that we have Google as that, right? We have Google. That's very good. And in our dependencies says we have to add this. So I'm going to just copy this as such and add at the bottom there. Looks like everything is good. And you can see sometimes there are some differences the way things are laid out in our Gradle. But the idea is still the same. We have repositories. Make sure that in our build script repositories has all of that. So we should be good. We just had to have that Google repository called there. Okay, while I'm here, let me go ahead and change this to the newer version because it's asking. And while I'm here also I'm going to change this to 4 because that's the latest Compose version. Okay, all right, let's continue. And now in our app level build.gradle, this is the app level, we need to add a few things. So it says, first of all, apply. We're going to add this line. I'm going to copy this. You can do that. So this, let's go back. Now see here, this is the app build.gradle. At the top here, let's go ahead and add apply plugin. And in this case now, because there have been some changes, what do we need to do? Actually, I can remove all of this and I can say just ID like this. Okay, that works as well. Okay, and then we're going to add this dependency here. I'm going to copy and go down to dependencies. So I will start somewhere here. Let's say Firebase Firestore, so I know, and paste in there. Very good. And now we're going to go ahead and says here that we need to sync our project. Very good. So go ahead and sync. All right. After a few moments, you see that the Gradle has updated and everything should be good. Now they have a couple dependencies for Firebase authentication and Cloud Firestore that I'm going to add here. So all of that you can actually go, let's just say next here. So you can actually check out the documentation. You can also explore the sample Firebase app. So let's right click and open this link. We're going to click this Android, and there's this very nice gentleman who walks you through everything, which is really nice. But if you scroll down, you'll see exactly what we've done, right? All the dependencies we had to add. And then at the bottom here, we'll see that we have Kotlin KTX for Android. So usually there is Java. We'll go to Kotlin, and you can see that we've added this dependency, the Firebase Boom, and we don't need this dependency because we're not using Google Analytics. But it says here, declare the dependency for any other desired Firebase products. And so it says, for example, declare the dependencies for Firebase authentication and Cloud Firestore, which is exactly what we want. So that's where I got this from. So just copy all of that as I did and add it there. So I can also add here Firebase auth and Firestore. Okay, so once again, let's go ahead and sync our project here. Okay, looks like everything went well. Okay, so now how do I know that this is actually working, that I have everything set up with Firebase? Well, one of the things you can do is actually just run this app as it is right now. And let's go to our logcat, and for debug, we can look for Firebase. Give it a minute. Change this to verbose. Still running. Looks like I have a few problems here. That's not a problem because these are versioning issues. So it says the version 1.0.4 for Compose compiler requires Kotlin 1.5.3.1. So this is something we need to do. Remember, all of these may change depending on when you're watching this video because these versions change constantly, okay? So whatever version they are telling us to change here, we need to add that. This is happening because if we go back to our build.app, I changed the actually build.gradle. This is the project level. I changed to 1.0.4. That means then here for our plugin, I need to change to what they ask, which is 1.5.31 like this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and sync once again. Okay. Looks like the syncing went well. Which looks like device unlocked, initializing all Firebase APIs for app default. That's good. Let's go ahead and actually run now and hopefully see something that will tell us that this is actually initialized, and all is good. All right, you should see something like this if you run your app, hello Android, but most importantly, we should see here in our verbose, if we type in Firebase to search for it, you can see it says Firebase initialization successful. So we know now that everything is set up for us to start looking at working with Firebase. All right, congratulations. Make sure you go through this process so that you have everything set up. Remember that these versions may be different by the time you watch this video, so don't get hung up on these versions of all of these dependencies, okay? So what's important is that you understand how to set things up, and that if you need to change those versions, you must change those versions. And make sure that if you change certain versions of certain dependencies, you will probably most likely have to change the other dependencies that depend on that dependency, if that makes any sense. So, but the beauty is that the build.gradle here will always tell us exactly which things or which dependencies need to be updated. Great. So we know that the Firebase initialization is successful. In fact, if we go back to our app here, say continue, you can see we have our app. There we go. This is the app that we just created. That's my app. In this case, you should have a different name and so forth, but it's there. So we can now do all sorts of things, right? We can create authentication and Firestore and images and so many services that we can use now. One thing I would like to point out is that inside of our Android setup with Firebase here, where we went and got our Kotlin dependencies for auth and Firestore, if you scroll down, continue to scroll down, you will see that we have all the available libraries here for Java Android, but we want Kotlin KTX Android, right? So Firebase here has a lot of different services. There's AdMob for ads, so this would be the service you would add or the dependency you would add. There's analytics, as you saw before, we can add that. All of these kinds that you can add, all of these different services for Firebase. Cloud storage, remote, and so many others, right? So this is a good reference for you to come, and most importantly also you can come and see the versions that are up to date.